Welcome back as we resume our Yom Kippur observance, consecrating this time and this space with the words Ma Tovu, how goodly are your houses, O Jacob, your tents, O Israel. Author of life, your care for us teaches us to care for ourselves. Embraced by you, I embrace your mitzvah, v'charta v'chaim, choose life on this holy day of atonement. Let my spirit as well as my body be nourished by the food and drink that will sustain me through this day. Blessed with strength and well-being, may I pursue a life of teshuvah, tefillah, and tzedakah. Return to the right path, prayer, and righteous giving. We rise in spirit or in body for the Baruch Hu, the call to worship. This is the day of God. On this day we are called to the sanctuary by a summons as exalting and enduring as the everlasting hills. Prepare to meet your God, O Israel. This is the day of awe. What are we as we stand before your presence, O God? A leaf in a storm, a fleeting moment in the flow of time, a whisper lost among the stars. This is the day of decision. Today we invoke you as the molder of our destiny. Help us to mend the evil of our ways, to right our heart's old wrongs. On this Sabbath of the soul, inscribe us for blessing in the book of life. And this is the day of atonement. We would return to you as penitent children, long to return to a loving parent. We confess our sins on this day. knowing that the gates of repentance are always open, receive us with compassion and bless us with your forgiving love.
Elohecha, v'chol levavecha, v'chol nafshecha, v'chol me'atecha, v'hayu ha'devarim ha'ele, asher Anochi mitzavecha, hayom ha'levavecha, v'shinantam levanecha, v'dibarta bam, v'shivtecha b'veitecha, v'lechtecha b'derech, V'shachbecha v'kumecha, v'kshartam nehot al yadecha, v'hayu letotafot beinenecha, v'chtavtam al mizuzot beitecha u'visharecha. Leman tiskavu v'asitem et kol mitzvotai, v'tem kedoshim lelohechem, Ani Adonai Elohechem, Asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem Elohim, Ani Adonai Elohechem emet.
And they shall know that I, Adonai, am their God, who brought them out of the land of Egypt, that I might abide among them. I, Adonai, their God. You took us out of the darkness so that your light might dwell among us. You showed us your power to bring down the powerful, to uplift the enslaved, to transform the social order. You showed us your strength so that we might remember our own. We carry the Exodus vision wherever we go, lest we forget our sense of liberation, lest we lose the joy of breathing free, lest we grow indifferent and blind to others' pain. So long as we work to make you present, we walk the path of freedom. But if we forget to bring you into this world, then we return to the darkness.
Shimcha Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Leah, v'Elohei Rachel, Ha'el, Ha'gadol, Ha'gibor, v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, v'Konei Ha'akol, v'Zocher Hasdei Avot v'Ibahot, Umevi Geula Livnei V'neihem, Leman Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, Ve'ezrat Sarah. Zochreinu l'chaim, Melech ofetz mayim, v'chodfenu b'sefer ha'chayim, l'man ha'Elohim chayim. Melech ozer u'Moshia u'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah. Ta gibor le'olam Adonai, Yechayeh hakol atah Rav l'Hoshia. Mechakel chayim b'chesed, Yechayeh hakol b'rachamim rabim, Somech noflim rofei cholim, U'matir asurim, U'mekayem emunato, Yishenei afar. Yichamoh b'chad divorot, U'midom elach, Melech meimit u'mechayeh, U'matzliach Yeshua. Mi chamocha, El Avraham, Zochei Yitzura, L'chaim v'rachamim. V'ne'eman atah l'chachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh hakol.
Your might, O God, is everlasting. Help us to use our strength for good and not for evil. You are the source of life and blessing. Help us to choose life for ourselves and our children. You are the support of the falling. Help us to lift up the fallen. You are the author of freedom. Help us to set free the captive. You are the hope in death as in life. Help us to keep faith with those who sleep in the dust. Your might, O God, is everlasting. Help us to use our strength for good.
Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh hakol atah Rav l'Hoshia. Mechalkel chayim b'chesed,
Let us proclaim the sacred power of this day. It is awesome and full of dread. For on this day your dominion is exalted, your throne established in steadfast love. There in truth you reign. In truth you are judge and arbiter, counsel and witness. You write and you seal. You record and recount. You remember deeds long forgotten. You open the book of our days, and what is written there proclaims itself, for it bears the signature of every human being. The great shofar is sounded. The still small voice is heard. The angels, gripped by fear and trembling, declare in awe, "This is the day of judgment. For even the hosts of heaven are judged, as all who dwell on earth stand arrayed before you." As the shepherd seeks out the flock and makes the sheep pass under the staff, so do you muster and number and consider every soul, setting the bonds of every creature's life and decreeing its destiny.
Rosh Hashanah, Hikatevun, Ubeyom Tzom Kippur, Ubeyom Tzom Kippur, Yechatenu. Rosh Hashanah, Hikatevun, Ubeyom Tzom Kippur, Yechatenu. Rosh Hashanah, Hikatevun, Ubeyom Tzom Kippur, Yechatenu.
On Rosh Hashanah it is written, on Yom Kippur it is sealed. How many shall pass on, how many shall come to be? Who shall live, and who shall die? Who shall see ripe age, and who shall not?
Yechatenu.
Me
Who shall perish by fire, and who by water? Who by sword, and who by beast? Who by hunger, and who by thirst? Who by earthquake, and who by plague? Who by strangling, and who by stoning? Who shall be secure, and who shall be driven? Who shall be tranquil, and who shall be troubled? Who shall be poor, and who shall be rich? Who shall be humbled, and who exalted? But repentance, prayer, and charity temper judgment's severe decree. This is your glory. You are slow to anger, ready to forgive. It is not the death of sinners you seek, but that they should turn from their ways and live. Until the last day you wait for them, welcoming them as soon as they turn to you. You have created us and know what we are. We are but flesh and blood. Our origin is dust, and dust is our end. Each of us is a shattered urn, grass that must wither, a flower that will fade, a shadow moving on, a cloud passing by, a particle of dust floating on the wind, a dream soon forgotten. But you are the sovereign, the everlasting God. We continue with a moment of quiet meditation and reflection. We continue with our confessional prayer, Vidui. Who among us is righteous enough to say, I have not sinned? We are arrogant, brutal, careless, destructive, egocentric, false, greedy, heartless, insolent, and joyless. Our sins are an alphabet of woe. The ways we have wronged you openly and secretly, and harm we have caused in your world by hating without cause. The ways we have wronged you by losing self-control, and harm we have caused you in your world through consumption of food and drink. The ways we have wronged you through sexual immorality and harm we have caused in your world by hardening our hearts. The ways we have wronged you through greed and exploitation, and harm we have caused in your world through dishonesty in business.
שחטאנו לפניך, בהרהור הלב, ואחרי שחטאנו לפניך, ברכילות.
The ways we have wronged you through our innermost thoughts, and harm we have caused in your world through gossip and rumor.
אחרי שחטאנו לפניך, בכפת שוחד, ואחרי שחטאנו לפניך, בחילול השם.
The ways we have wronged you by offering or accepting bribes, and harm we have caused in your world by profaning your name in public. When fears multiply and danger threatens, when sickness comes and death confronts us, it is God's blessing of shalom that sustains us and upholds us, lightening our burden, dispelling our worry, restoring our strength, renewing our hope, reviving us. Slach na la'avon ha'am hazeh, kegodel chasdecha b'cha'asher nasata la'am hazeh, mimitzrayim ve'ad hena. As in your love you have been patient with this people, from the time you led us out of Egypt to the present day, so in your great name may you forgive your people now. Who can say, I have purified my heart and I am free of sin? There are none on earth so righteous that they never sin. Cast away all the evil you have done and get yourself a new heart and a new spirit. A new heart will I give you, a new spirit put within you. I will remove the heart of stone from your flesh and give you a heart that feels. Wash yourselves, make yourselves clean. Remove the evil of your doings from before my eyes. Cease to do evil, learn to do good. Seek justice, correct oppression, defend the orphan, plead for the widow. Seek your God, the Eternal One, whom you shall find if you search with all your heart and soul. Show us your love, O God, and grant us your help.
Alleluia.
Our God, God of all generations, may the sense of your presence never leave us. May it keep us ever faithful to your covenant. Make us responsive to your teaching that we may walk in your ways. Fill our souls with awe and our hearts with love, that we may return to you in truth and with all our being. We have the unique tradition here at Temple Kol Ami that a member of our congregation is selected each year to be our Rodef Tzedek, to be our pursuer of justice, to remind us and instill within us a sense of devotion and dedication to bringing justice in our world. And this year, we welcome Rondi Brower, who will be speaking on behalf of our congregation to remind us of our sacred calling.
Good morning. My name is Rondi Brower, and I'm your Temple Kol Ami Rodef Tzedek for 5781. Rodef Tzedek, pursuer of justice. Wow, sounds like a superhero. I'm a lot of things, but not a superhero. So, who am I? I'm a bookseller, born in New Jersey, longtime resident of upstate New York, and current resident of Ferndale with my husband, Philip Gilly. Our 3 children all live in Brooklyn. Philip and I joined Temple Kol Ami 3 years ago, just after I moved to Michigan. I'm now a co-chair of the Kol Ami Social Action Committee, along with the inestimable Lee Schottenfels. This year, I'm also the Sisterhood Vice President for Social Action and Social Justice. We are all commanded to pursue justice. Rabbi Bradley Artson wrote, "One cannot claim to love God and not be passionate about justice." That is the primary Jewish contribution to the human spirit. Deuteronomy 16:20. Tzedek, tzedek tirdof. Justice, justice, you shall pursue. For me, the repetition is key. I understand the emphasis to mean go deeper. There are 2 levels to the work. It's important, but not enough, to alleviate individual pain and suffering. We must also work to solve the underlying problems that caused the pain. It's also not enough to change our individual behaviors. We must also change our collective behavior. I see my role this year as not just taking action myself, but encouraging others to act. I see myself not so much as a leader, the aforementioned superhero, but as the Temple Kol Ami Justice mascot. I want to make it easy for every congregant to take meaningful action to repair our world. No question, there's plenty to do. Systemic racism, anti-Semitism, poverty, unaffordable and unclean water, climate change, our treatment of immigrants and refugees, threats to reproductive freedom, the list is nearly endless. Here are just a few of the opportunities at Temple Kol Ami this year. Community Food Project. The pandemic has caused increased unemployment, which has led to a massive increase in the number of people who cannot afford food. One estimate suggests 1 in 8 people in the US are experiencing hunger. Sadly, this is true even in our own local community. With much assistance from Hazon, the National Jewish Sustainability Organization, the Social Action Committee has organized a weekly food distribution on Thursday. Volunteers are needed every week. Each shift is about 2 hours long. The first shift sorts and packs the food. The second shift greets neighbors and distributes food. The third shift finishes the distribution and puts away supplies. All of this is outside and masked, so it is a very low virus risk activity. There's an online sign-up form. You can sign up just once or as often as you'd like. But it's getting cold and you don't want to be outside? The Social Action Committee has started to partner with Jewish Earth Alliance, a grassroots organization helping to raise a collective, strong, and consistent Jewish voice in Washington, D.C. on the subject of climate change. Each month, we write to our own members of Congress on a particular environmental topic. This month, our letters will focus on the importance of prioritizing climate change in the next legislative session. We were too slow to act on COVID-19, and we've seen the consequences. We can still act to stop the worst effects of climate change, but only if we start right now. Note, this is not prohibited political activity, since we are advocating for policy change, not specific politician change, although in some cases that might help too. Climate change should not be a partisan issue. Fires, floods, hurricanes, and earthquakes affect us all. The Sisterhood will focus on volunteering with Jewish Family Service this year. One activity that everyone in the congregation can participate in is Adopt a Family, a program that provides gifts to JFS client families to brighten their holidays. Since Hanukkah is relatively early this year, sign-ups for that program will be in mid-October. Details will be provided in the Sisterhood newsletter and also the weekly temple email. Most of our activities do not require Sisterhood or Social Action Committee membership, so you can participate as much or as little as you have time and enthusiasm for. Of course, if you'd like to join either group, we'd be happy to have you. Call or email me with any questions or suggestions you have. When we get to this time next year, I hope I will be able to look back and say, yes, I spent 5781 pursuing justice. I hope we can all look back and know that the world is a better place because of Temple Kol Ami. Lishana Tova.
We wish Tishrei Kochech, Strength to Rondi, who's given us much to think about this morning. We continue with the service for the reading of the Torah, for which we rise in body or in spirit. Seder Kriyat HaTorah.
Adonai, Adonai, El Rachum v'chanun, El Rachum v'chanun, Erech Apayim, Rav Chesed, Emet, Notzer Chesed, Alafim, Notzer Chesed,
Our Torah portion this morning comes from the book of Deuteronomy. Words spoken to the children of Israel just before they are to enter the land of Israel. They're words that remind them that wherever they go, wherever they travel, they shouldn't be too baffled or overcome by fear for the challenge of living up to the commandments that God has given, but rather that whenever they are concerned, they should know that these words can be found within their own hearts to observe and to do them. This is Parshat Nitzavim from the book of Deuteronomy.
Baruch hu et Adonai HaBarak.
Baruch Adonai HaBarak le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaBarak le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
אתם ניצבים היום כולכם לפני אדוני אלוהיכם, ראשיכם, שבטיכם, זקניכם ושוטריכם, כל איש ישראל. תבחם נשיכם בגרך אשר בקרב, מחנכם מכותב עצך עד שואב ממך. לעברך בברית אדוני אלוהיך, ובעלתו אשר אדוני אלוהיך, קוראת עמך היום. למען הקים אותך היום, לא לעם והוא יהיה לך, לאלוהים כאשר דיבר לך, וכאשר נשבע לאבותיך, לאברהם, ליצחק וליעקב. ולא אתכם לבדכם אנוכי, כורת את הברית הזאת, ואת העלה הזאת, כי את אשר ישנו פה עמנו עומד היום לפני אדוני אלוהינו, ואת אשר איננו פה עמנו היום. כי המצווה הזאת אשר אנוכי מצווך היום, לא נפלאת היא ממך ולא רחוקה היא, לא בשמיים היא לאמור מי יעלה לנו השמיימה ויקחיה לנו וישמיענו אותה ונעשנה. ולא מעבר לים היא לאמור מי יעבר לנו אל עבר הים ויקחיה לנו וישמיענו אותה ונעשנה. כי קרוב אליך הדבר, מאוד בפיך ובלבבך לעשותו. ראה נתתי לפניך היום את החיים ואת הטוב, ואת המוות ואת הרע, אשר אנוכי מצווך היום, לאהבה את אדוני אלוהיך, ללכת בדרכיו ולשמור מצוותיו וחוקותיו ומשפטיו, וחיית ורבית וברכך אדוני אלוהיך בארץ, אשר אתה בא שמה לרשתה. ואם יפנה לבבך ולא תשמע ונידחת והשתחווית לאלוהים אחרים ועבדת. הגדתי לכם היום כי אבוד תעבדון לא תאריכון ימים על האדמה אשר אתה עובר את הירדן לבוא שמה לרשתה. העידותי בכם היום את השמיים ואת הארץ. החיים והמוות נתתי לפניך. הברכה והקללה ובחרת בחיים למען תחיה אתה וזרעך. לאהבה את אדוני אלוהיך, לשמוע בקולו ולדבקבו, כי הוא חייך ואורך ימיך לשבת על האדמה אשר נשבע אדוני לאבותיך לאברהם וליצחק וליעקב לתת לכם.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'hayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah.
In the presence of the Torah, we offer prayers for healing for all those who are in need of healing, be that spiritual or physical healing. And we're aware in particular this year of the unique challenges that have been brought by multiple crises that we're currently undergoing, both globally and as a nation and a community. As a congregation, we think of all of those individuals who are in need of healing. We draw them into our hearts. We think of all those that have been affected by the COVID pandemic, as well as those affected by earthquakes and fires. And although we're not able to physically be together, we're mindful of all the ways that we can be together in spirit and draw healing from one another.
Mi shebeirach avotenu Avraham, Yitzchak veYaakov. Mi shebeirach emotenu Sarah, Rivka, Leah v'Rachel. May the one who blessed our mothers, may the one who blessed our fathers, hear our prayer, 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 and bless us as well, and bless us as well. Bless us with the power of your healing. Bless us with the power of your hope. May our hearts be filled with understanding and strengthened by the power of your love. Mi shebeirach avotenu Avraham, Yitzchak veYaakov. Mi shebeirach emotenu Sarah, Rivka, Leah v'Rachel. May the one who blessed our mothers, may the one who blessed our fathers, hear our prayer, 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 and bless us as well. Hear our prayer, 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 and bless us as well.
V'sot haTorah asher se Moshe livnei bnei
One evening, a wealthy businessman was riding in his limousine when he saw two men along the side of the road eating grass. Disturbed, he yelled at his driver to stop, and he got out to investigate. He asked one man, "Why are you eating grass?" "Well, we don't have money for food," the poor man replied, "so we have to eat grass." "Well then," said the businessman, "come to my house and I'll feed you." "But sir, I also have a wife and two children with me. They're over there under that tree." "Okay, bring them along too," the businessman replied. Turning to the other poor man, he stated, "You come along with us also." The second man, in a most pitiful voice, then said, "But sir, I also have a wife and 7 children with me." "Very well then, bring them all," the businessman answered. They all piled into the limousine, which was no easy task. Once underway, one of the poor fellows turned to the businessman and said, "Sir, you are truly too kind. Thank you for taking all of us with you." The businessman replied, "No problem. I'm glad to do it. You'll really love my place. The grass is almost a foot high." We eat to live. We will always need nourishment, so long as we live. Without it, we would wither and die. And yet on Yom Kippur, we fast. We go without nourishment. Traditionally, there are 5 things by which we are to afflict ourselves through deprivation: food, drink, sex, washing, and wearing leather. We detach ourselves from our physical needs, and in doing so, we learn we cannot do that forever, lest we die. We get hungry as the day moves on. We start to feel our mortality. Furthermore, we're told, only if we are healthy enough to fast may we do so, and we are still obligated to feed our children and the ill. The last 6 months of living through the coronavirus pandemic has been a harrowing experience. It has transformed our lives in ways which weren't imaginable in February. The stock market is stable, albeit fragile. However, unemployment is at a record level, and so I want to take a moment to recognize that this Yom Kippur, there are Jews and people of all kinds who are going without food, and not out of a sense of spiritual obligation. Wow. Let that sink in. Now add all of those who have lost their homes to hurricanes and fires, or are experiencing financial hardship. All 3 are at record levels. In July, the Wall Street Journal reported about 12.1% of adults lived in households that didn't have enough to eat at some point in the previous week, up from 9.8% in early May. And almost 20% of Americans with kids at home couldn't afford to give their children enough food, up from almost 17% in early June. We read in the Blessing After Meals, the Birkat Hamazon, a verse from Psalm 37. Na'ar hayiti v'gam zakanti v'lo ra'iti tzadik ne'ezav v'zaro mevakesh lachem. I have been young and am now old, but I have never seen a righteous man abandoned or his children seeking bread. But this is not so. And it feels so wrong to say this, when many people, for no fault of their own, are going hungry. We must be aware of this fact. Hillel the elder taught, "Do not judge your fellow until you have reached his place." In fact, many people have realized this verse is incongruence to our tradition, and so they choose the practice of either omitting the line or reciting it in an undertone when they recite the prayer. This is not a remote problem. It is on our doorstep. And I commend all in our congregation who have supported and volunteered as part of our community food project. We are feeding our neighbors weekly with fresh and healthy foods. Why did we do this? Was this our responsibility as a congregation? Who is responsible for feeding the poor? The Talmud states that it was the king's responsibility to feed the people. And in medieval days, leftover bread was literally reserved as portions for the poor. But responsibility for feeding the poor is not exclusive to the king. Torah further obligates us to the commandment of payah, of leaving gleanings at the corners of our fields for the poor. In Jewish law, we find the teaching concerning the order in which we should provide charity. We're told, the poor of his own house to the poor of the city at large, the poor of his own city to the poor of other cities, and the poor that dwell in the Holy Land to those that dwell in other lands. We are commanded to balance our needs with the needs of others. But when it comes to who gets priority, our family, our neighbors, and our people are the first three. This is real. We are getting so many calls. People break down in tears on the phone who confess that they've not eaten in days. Husbands, wives, and children, the elderly, the immigrant, the old-time Detroiter. We call them our neighbors because they are. Our actions or inaction affects the welfare of our entire community. This is one of the most remarkable lessons we've learned as a result of the coronavirus pandemic. All of us have been made responsible for the well-being of those with whom we gather. Simply by opting for well-ventilated spaces when possible, keeping 6 feet apart, by wearing masks, by washing hands, and by avoiding crowds, we are not only keeping ourselves safe, we keep each other safe. We are taught the commandment to keep our kinsperson's welfare as dear to us as our own. Ve'ahavta l're'echa kamocha, at least 36 times in Torah. And so with all the unrest of today, we should not think, we should feel it is our obligation to respond. And to not embrace this obligation is truly reprehensible. Tanhuma, a 9th century Midrashic rabbinic commentary on the Torah, warns individuals not to manipulate their community for self-serving purposes. It writes, a person who regards themselves as though they were a truma, a person who holds themselves above the community and says, why should I be concerned with the problems of the community? Why should I be concerned with their rules? Why should I listen to their pleas? My own well-being is my own and only concern. Such a person destroys the world. On 3 things the world stands, but on one thing, selfishness, the world is destroyed. We are important, but our needs are never more important than the needs of the community. Our very fasting on Yom Kippur is intended to remind us of this. Today's Haftarah, which sadly did not fit into our program, reads, is such the fast I desire, a day for men to starve their bodies. Is it bowing the head like a bulrush and lying in sackcloth and ashes? Do you call that a fast? A day when the eternal is favorable? No, this is the fast that I desire, to unlock the fetters of wickedness and untie the cords of the yoke and to let the oppressed go free, to break off every yoke. It is to share your bread with the hungry and to take the wretched poor into your home. When you see the naked, to clothe them and not to ignore your own kin. Rabbi Baruch Mezobeth, the grandson of the Baal Shem Tov, the founder of Hasidic Judaism, teaches, the whole of the community is greater than the sum of its parts. Each individual Israelite may be flawed and imperfect, but when all of them join together, The strengths and good qualities of each are reinforced and magnified. This also teaches that no one should say, "It is not my responsibility." Everyone must do his or her share. Rabbi Baruch emphasizes that responsibility needs to be shared by all members, with their objectives centered on the welfare of the greater community. At the same time, he hints more generally at the greatness of the value we can realize through congregational life. Rabbi Baruch suggests that this value is not measured by how well the congregation connects to its members. Instead, the value emerges based on how well the congregation joins its members, enabling each of you to care for and become a community for each other. Our mission statement reads, "Together we nurture connections among our people, our community, and our world through Judaism." What we need right now, Ron Wolfson, the author of Relational Judaism, says, is relationships. Not just passing acquaintances, but lifelong relationships that can develop within communities and that will lift us up and beyond our own individualism. Relationships based on listening to one another's needs and on shared experience and through commitments to work side by side and to join together in prayer. Relationships that require face-to-face encounters. How, with our relationships, can we create and transform our community? With our community food project, we can feed our community. And with many other initiatives going on behind the scenes. Since March, volunteers from our congregation have made multiple rounds of calls to members. And even as every household faces some hardship in the present moment, we have sought to provide a source of connection and hope through regular Zoom classes, our online religious school, social hours and speakers, through opportunities available from our sisterhood and brotherhood, and with Congregation B'nai Israel, with whom we share a space, and through the spiritual services we offer, such as this Yom Kippur service you are a part of right now. And if you have not yet formally become a member, please consider joining us. We're a small congregation with limited funds, but with a big impact. And we need your help. We need you to help us sustain all of this. The 20th century philosopher and Talmud commentator Emmanuel Levinas argues that the purpose of our religious rituals is to create moments of holiness that reflect our values and connect us to other Jews in every place and at every time. Thus, when we work together to bring about the realization of our values in the world through community, we create something sacred, eternal, infinitely bigger than ourselves. The prophet Isaiah charged us to be a light unto the nations, or legoyim. In the Talmud, Rabbi Isaac teaches, "Let respect for the community always be with you, for you will note that when blessing the worshipers, the priests' faces were turned towards the people, and their backs were towards the divine presence that emanated from the Holy of Holies." In Hebrew, we refer to congregations as kehilot kedoshot, as sacred gatherings. And based on Rabbi Isaac's teaching, we are made all the more sacred when we engage with each other, face to face. So let us gather to uplift and transform our world. Let us not be shy about the challenges before us. Let us make our concern for each other as dear to us as our concern for ourselves. We need you to help sustain this congregation, to help us feed our community literally and spiritually, as we endeavor to be a light of inspiration and justice in our world. May this be God's will. Ken Yehi Ratzon. We continue with Seder Chazarat HaTorah, the service for returning the Torah to the Ark.
It's
Infinite source of goodness, help us to see the good in ourselves, in others, and in the world around us. Teach us to cultivate a discerning mind to know right from wrong, and a listening heart open to love and forgiveness. Guide us to walk in your ways with integrity, ever faithful to the promises our forebears made. And may your goodness inspire us to do what is just and right.
Hayom Tivarachenu, Amen. Hayom Tigadlenu, Amen.
Hayom Tidrashenu Letova, Amen.
Hayom Tichtevenu Lechaim Tovim, Amen.
Hayom Tishma Shavatenu, Amen.
Hayom Titmechenu b'mintzidkecha, Amen. Today, give us blessing.